Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Madison Brazel. This evening, we warmly welcome the members of the 1st Recruit Training Battalion from Kapooka, New South Wales. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of St Gregory the Great School visiting from Doncaster, Victoria, students on behalf of Burrabadeen Christian Community School visiting from Dubbo, New South Wales, and students on behalf of Condell Park Christian School from Condell Park, New South Wales. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Students and those who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Blain, Australia's First World War official historian. Blain landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Blain's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had done for us and what they had endured. Blain's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read a story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us during war and on operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Eric Hamilton Blain. Eric was born in London, England, on the 23rd of September 1918, the only child of Frederick and May Blain. His mother died when he was 2 years old, and Eric and his father, a veteran of the First World War who served with the East Surrey Regiment, eventually moved to Essex, where Frederick married Florence Donaldson in 1925. Eric worked as a farmhand in Essex until May 1935, when the 16-year-old boarded the Orsova bound for Brisbane. Leaving his father and his stepmother behind, he immigrated to Australia. Over the next 5 years, he established himself in the small farming community of Peacock Siding, North Queensland, where he worked on a sugarcane farm. After the outbreak of war in September 1939, 100,000 Australian men volunteered for overseas service over 7 months. Eric was one of the 22,000 who volunteered to serve in the Australian Army's 2nd Imperial Force, doing so on the 28th of March 1940 at Ingham, Queensland. In late May, Private Blain began his basic training at Redbank Camp, Brisbane, with the newly formed 2nd 15th Infantry Battalion. About a month later, the battalion moved to Darwin, where it spent 3 months on garrison duty and continued training. In November, the men of the 2nd 15th enjoyed 2 weeks of leave before shipping out from Sydney on Boxing Day, 1940. As part of the 20th Brigade, the 2nd 15th arrived in Egypt on the 3rd of February 1941. The battalion soon moved to Palestine for a few weeks of desert training. At the end of the month, it travelled through the Libyan desert to the front lines. By this point, the German Afrika Korps had landed at Tripoli and were advancing eastwards. The 2nd 15th became involved in the rapid withdrawal of British forces to Tobruk, known to the Australian troops as the Benghazi Handicap. The withdrawal cost the battalion heavily. The commanding officer, second in command, and 154 men were captured at El Ghazala. Alongside thousands of Australian soldiers, the 2nd 15th would spend the next 7 months besieged in Tobruk as it fought to defend its fortress. In April, Private Blain was admitted to hospital for an illness labelled as not yet diagnosed, a common phrase at the time for what would likely be called combat stress reaction today. During his time in hospital, Private Blain was also treated for venereal disease. After several months, he was able to rejoin his unit in the defence of Tobruk. September 1941 was an eventful month for Private Blain. He disobeyed a lawful command by a senior officer, leading to a small fine. 10 days later, he was seriously wounded in an accident while the 2nd 15th was holding a reserve defensive line. He spent the next 2 months recovering in hospital. By the time he rejoined his unit, it was about to be withdrawn from Tobruk. The battalion was moved to Gaza in Palestine for rest, followed by a 6-month period of training and garrison duties in Lebanon and Syria. However, Private Blain's physical and mental health was suffering. He spent several more periods in hospital before he was evacuated to Australia in August 1942. This was the end of his time with the 2nd 15th Battalion. It took several weeks in an Australian hospital before Private Blain was deemed suitable for service. After 1 month of leave in September 1942, he was transferred to the 34th Infantry Training Battalion. As the Australian Army's main focus turned towards the defeating of the Imperial Japanese Army in jungle terrain, units were required to undergo specialised training in jungle warfare and surviving tropical conditions. Beginning in February 1943, Private Blain and the 34th Infantry Training Battalion undertook training at the Jungle Warfare Training Centre in Canberra, Queensland. 2 months into the rigorous training period, tragedy struck. Private Blain sustained serious injuries in a road accident at 12:30 on the 12th of April. He was taken to the Rockhampton General Hospital, where he died of his injuries the next day. A military court of inquiry found that the incident was a complete accident. Private Eric Hamilton Blain is buried at the Rockhampton War Cemetery in Queensland. He was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Eric Hamilton Blain, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Blain. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.